DJI has recently released the new firmware update for the Pocket 2, and in it they've addressed and corrected some nagging issues as well as trying to provide new and additional features. This is my breakdown and review of those changes or updates. Some are genuinely good, other ones are not so good. Two little things that DJI have done that provide better functionality than before are, if you now press the on-off button, the gimbal will start on selfie mode. It will save you maybe 1 second than before. Instead, now if you press this front button, the gimbal will start facing away from you in normal mode straight away. Again, you gain maybe 1 second if anything. Yeah. If you now turn off the gimbal, it will stay in this locking position for a little bit longer than before, so that you have enough time to put the gimbal back in its case. There really is no need to spend too much time on this for the sake of running the clock. Personally, I wish DJI would spend less time on useless upgrades that provide little to no useful functionality, and instead they would spend the time on things that are genuinely useful, but the current implementation is somewhat embarrassing, like HDR. Honestly, what is the point of providing a feature that is so badly implemented? If you're excited about the idea of HDR in this camera, well, I'm sorry to burst the bubble, but it's crap. I just can't think of another way to describe how bad and genuinely useless it is. Firstly, it's cropped in and only on 1080p and 2.7K, not available on 4K. That to me will be enough to stop thinking on using it or even considering using it, as I'm not a big fan of cropping in. But hold on, because things get even better. You get no control whatsoever over exposure or shutter speed. The whole thing is on auto, which means that if you care even the slightest about image quality, well, forget about using it on anything that requires any kind of movement. You move this thing and the footage will go all over the place. This is embarrassing, to be honest. What is the point of HDR if you can't set your shutter speed and lock exposure? You just do not want the gimbal to be adjusting the brightness levels for you. I just can't work out what DJI was thinking when they decided to release this feature. My advice, turn it off and revisit this in a future firmware update. But given the fact that they decided to release this crap HDR in the first place, I have little faith that they will get this right. It seems DJI doesn't think that it's important or relevant that you have manual control when using HDR. Shocking. Improved active tracking, or so DJI claims. Well, it only took me a matter of seconds to realize that whatever improvement they claim they've done, man, it's pie in the sky. If anything, I think they've actually made it worse, if they can even do that. With the new firmware upgrade, DJI has theoretically improved the active tracking. So let's actually test it and see how much of an improvement we get. So now we are, well, it's actually improved a little bit, but it's still, as you can see, it still moves way too much. This is really extreme. My advice is forget about the active tracking, stick to follow mode, and you'll be totally fine. I think active tracking is a bit of a gimmick. As you can see, follow mode, it follows really nicely, and you don't need to worry about the active tracking feature leaving too much headroom or anything. You're totally in control. Honestly, active tracking, they still have to do a lot of work on it. It's crap, basically. I just can't work out why they can't get this right, rather than giving us a feature that is pretty much useless and very badly implemented. In all fairness, it belongs in the bin. And to be honest with you, you don't really need it. Set the gimbal to follow and off you go. I would love to know what is the idea behind this from DJI and how they intend people to use it. In its current form, I think it's useless for anything to do with vlogging or face tracking. And even if you're lucky enough and manage to keep your subject tracked, it always wants to keep everything in the middle of the frame, which means that generally you get a lot of headroom. I think it's a selling gimmick. It looks good on paper and in advertising, but in real practical life, it's total rubbish. DJI has optimized the audio quality in the wireless mic. And this is something that had also baffled me in the first place. I would get these random interferences out of nowhere, and I could never quite pin down where they were coming from or what was triggering them. So I'm really, really pleased that they've sorted this, because it was driving me insane. And it's nice to know that you can now get decent audio, whatever environment or location that you're in. Gimbal lock is a very cool and useful feature. I'm really glad that they've introduced this, because it's very useful for recreating dolly-like shots or in hyperlapses. You can now lock the gimbal, and no matter how you move, it keeps locked in the direction that you set it to. This is also very useful if you want to film something for a long time, like a concert or similar, where you might move, but you always want the frame to remain still and in the same position. It makes the footage look like it's on a tripod. If you're doing a straight ins or outs without panning or walking around a subject, this will help getting really nice and stable footage. Overall, it's a really nice feature. Okay, so we're gonna do a test of the lock, and one of the many uses that I reckon you can use, which is for creating dolly shots. So we're gonna track into the tree using the follow mode, and let's see how it goes. And now we are on gimbal lock. Trimming and download. You can now trim your clips before downloading them through the Mimo app and saving them in your phone. This may be a cool feature for anyone wanting to go directly from gimbal to social media. But to me, personally, it's a little pointless, as I always prefer to download, edit and grade in my editing suite and then upload into whatever platform I choose. But it's useful to an extent. It doesn't harm to have the feature there, and I guess the more the better, really. What I wish DJI would do is to provide access to all the features and settings that you get in the gimbal, but through the Mimo app. Don't get me wrong, you get most of the functionality in the Mimo app, but there are some settings that you can only dial in when using the gimbal on its own. And that is really frustrating, because the screen is so small that sometimes you just want to attach a phone and enjoy the additional real estate that you get from a larger screen. For instance, if you want 240 frames a second in a slow-mo, well, guess what? You can't do that through the Mimo app. The Mimo app will only allow you to set it to 120. I mean, what the hell? What is the point of the Mimo app in the first place? I'll give you another one. You can set the ISO to a maximum of 1200 in the Mimo app, but in the gimbal you can go all the way up to 64K. That is a substantial difference and very annoying, because if you ever need to go all the way up to 64K, it is probably in very low light situations, and you will want to be able to see what it is that you're filming in a larger screen rather than the tiny screen on the gimbal itself. I've managed to set the ISO at 64K in the gimbal and then wirelessly connect it to the Mimo app, and that way you get to see the image at 64K on your phone. But the moment you want to adjust the ISO and you touch the setting wheel, it defaults back to 1200 and back to square one. So this little hack is basically for viewing purposes only. I just can't work out why DJI refuses to add 32K and 64K ISO functionality through the Mimo app. It's baffling. It's probably one of those inexplicable mysteries in life, I guess. Don't be put off by my lack of enthusiasm about this latest firmware upgrade. The Pocket 2 as a whole is a fantastic camera gimbal. It has great 4K, fantastic and low light. The gimbal is really, really nice. And as a whole, if you purchase it, you won't be disappointed. I have an in-depth review, just the link coming up here, where I go in detail through not every aspect of the camera gimbal, but most of them, with real life examples, and hopefully you'll feel much more positive about it. I just don't feel this firmware upgrade is as amazing or as great as most videos on YouTube seem to be raving about. I also have another video coming up with essential accessories, which might be quite useful for anybody that wants to get the best out of this camera gimbal. Things that I personally think are necessary and will help you get the best results in terms of image quality. Anyway, I hope you find this video helpful. If you like it, give it a thumbs up Subscribe to the channel and help us grow and keep doing videos on a weekly basis, and we'll see you in the next video.